How do you currently structure your contracts?
So this is changing all the time. Well, the way I did it 5 years ago, the way I did it pre-COVID versus during COVID, and then right after COVID, and now it's changing all the time. So we like to have what's known as a pay-to-play contract, and we're going to give the buyer some time to evaluate the property. And like I said before, we call that a free look. But then once certain criteria have been met, then there's money that is released to the sellers. Now, ideally, what you would like is a check written to the sellers. That depends on, that's the true test of how hot your property is whether or not I can get you a check released to you. A lot of attorneys are going to be like, well, they might be in default. They might do something to mess up the title at the very end. We're risking a lot of money and we're giving you money, and then you don't close on the property, and possession's 9/10 of the law. So I've already given you the money. It's hard to, so what they do is they'll put it in escrow and they'll say it's non-refundable. The problem with that is, and this has only happened to me once, but we were in a non-refundable situation, and what did the attorney do? He refunded it to the to the buyer. So my sellers at that time had gotten over $200,000, but this was another $50,000, and they still wanted the $50,000, and they were entitled to the $50,000. They could have made it messier if they wanted to, and sued and whatnot. But the fact of the matter is, the property went back on the market and sold again for a higher price. So there wasn't too much of a loss for them, whatever. But there's no guarantee when it's non-refundable. You have to make that pretty strict. And a lot of people will argue over whose trust account does it go in. Will it go in my trust account, or will it go in the buyer's attorney's trust account, or will it go in the seller's attorney? All trust accounts are equal. They're not supposed to be touched. So, but then when certain parameters are met, you make sure that money is somehow released to the seller. And then we can get into the extensions too. And are those extensions going to be applied to the purchase price or not applied to the purchase price? And it all depends on how many there are and how long it takes. But the unique thing is that when it comes to these really big land acquisition teams, they have a certain way that they do things, and it makes a big difference if it is a private home builder developer, because that is a family-owned company, and they can do whatever they want. They have policy, but they can do whatever they want. When we have a company that's publicly traded, stocks, and that can make a big difference. They're not allowed to take giant risks as far as land acquisition is concerned, because they have shareholders that they're responsible to. So being able to navigate those and knowing the difference is really important.